Today, we explore a city in the last modern empire in Europe, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Established between 1867 to 1918, Austria-Hungary was really a collaborative effort between the Hungarian king and the Emperor of Austria. And together, they were the second largest state in Europe, next to Russia, of course. Vienna is clearly a city proud of its past. We can see that with the pristine reconstruction of many of the historical sites, as nearly every building in here has been reconstructed to match pre-war times. A lot of the city's been bombed out recently. As we learned a couple of weeks ago, World War I started whenever a bickering between Austria-Hungary and Serbia got a bit out of hand. An Austrian diplomat was on a political trip to Serbia to try to smooth some of the arguments over, and Serbia took that as an opportunity to de-life both the diplomat and his partner. Not the best business trip if you ask me. What is a better trip though is the St. Stephen's Cathedral in the middle of Vienna. The structure we see today was constructed in 1339 AD on top of two smaller churches. These churches were the site of many crusades that took place in the 1100s. The church has stood the test of plague, famine, and fire. And today, virtual reality in front of reality? Don't ask why you wouldn't look at that church itself when it's right in front of you, but to each their own. Notably, St. Stephen's is notorious for being the reason Beethoven identified he was deaf. He saw birds leaving the bell tower, housing 22 bells one day, and he couldn't hear a thing. Now back to the history of this place. Don't get me wrong, Austria-Hungary did equally bad stuff to Serbia during this time, but she took this assassination as an excuse to flex her muscles and converse with Serbia in an explosive, non-verbal way. As we learned from last week's discussion on Kosovo, Russia was deeply allied with the Balkan states. She had helped them to rebuild, defend, and establish a new form of government to try and re-establish stability in the Balkan Peninsula after the Ottomans were pushed out. This little Austria-Serbia street fight got way out of hand too fast, and in just a short time, Austria-Hungary started to lose the war. Their army, although 7 million people strong, was poorly led and needed Big Brother German Emperor to come in and help save the day. In the early 1900s, this basically was like Mark Zuckerberg showing Elon Musk how to launch a social media platform when Zuck introduced Threads in 2023. The war ended whenever a lot of the big powers came in and decided that Austria-Hungary should be two different countries, establish Yugoslavia as a single country to ensure its dominance in post-war Europe, and of course, create Czechoslovakia. So that's how Austria got here today. Walking in the middle of these huge government buildings and down the streets of Austria, it's easy to forget that it's actually the last remaining great European empire. It's also interesting to note that Austrian Adolf Hitler, born in 1889, likely was taught the importance and power of a great empire could have whenever he was in school, and probably one of the reasons he attempted to recreate such an empire in Germany. At the time, ethnic genocide was the way to dominance. And as Austria needed Germany's help to help get it through the Great War, Hitler knew that if he were to lead a country to greatness, it'd probably be the German Empire. Back to modern day though, the grandeur in the city isn't lost. It's well preserved, reconstructed, and shines bright amongst the extremely rainy days that I was here. And away from the golden grandeur, down these cold, wet streets, in a forgotten part of Vienna, sits this row of houses that have been preserved in the original Viennese pre-Great War style. Ludwig von Beethoven was German, but he wasn't into war, and thus moved to Vienna whenever Germany was at war. For someone who was as ill-struck and alcoholic as Ludwig himself, it's amazing to see how he climbed up all of these stairs many nights alone, composing the great works we merely appreciate today as just one of the classics. Join me next week as we visit the second part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Thanks for watching!